Welcome to the Pastor Scott Show. Call Pastor Scott now at 888-528-2557. That's 888-528-2557. And now, here's Pastor Scott.
Hey, everybody, we're live on Friday on the Pastor Scott Show, and that means it is Open Line Friday.
Open Line Friday's calling you. Bring your faith, your fun, your politics too. From Southern Cali, we bring the light. Every Friday, feeling so right. Right!
That's right, Open Line Friday. Call about anything you'd like. An Open Line Friday, sponsored by Berglund and Johnson, the personal injury attorneys with offices in L.A., Orange County, serving Southern California. You can call for your free consultation. Got a legal issue, or you think you might? Give them a call. Christian attorneys, call 1-800, the number 4, if hurt. 1-800, the number 4, if hurt, for Berglund and Johnson. All right, it's Open Line Friday. We're live on Friday, Pastor Scott Show. You can call about anything. Our number for Open Line Friday is 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. On Fridays, we let you pick the topic, so you can call about a Bible question, spiritual matter. It can be something in the news you want to talk about, something else that maybe we talked about earlier in the week. Anything on your mind. You can ask me anything, and on Fridays, you can change the subject to something else. So if we're talking about one thing and you want to talk about something else, call right now. We'll change the subject just for you. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. You can call right now. Hey, here's a story that might affect a lot of us, at least in a sentimental way.
If you recognize the phrase 8 CDs for a penny, I have generational news for you tonight. After 71 years and a transition from vinyl to tapes to CD, Columbia House is no more. They once had 16 million members, but streaming killed the mail-order star. Last day for orders, September 15th.
Columbia House Record and Tape Club. CDs and movies, eventually. That thing was around for a long time, and I think it got all of us. Did you ever do that? Did you ever send in? The way it worked was you would... The whole idea is that you, for a penny, they'd give you a certain number of tapes, records, CDs. Eventually, it's movies or CDs, or DVDs. I think it got a little more expensive than just a penny. But what it was you got this card, and you would fill out a catalog, and it would be in the newspaper or TV guide or something, and then you would say, I got 12, 10, 13 tapes that you wanted to get or CDs that you want to get, and you'd fill in the little number, and you'd mail off the card, and you'd literally tape a penny to it, and you'd get them all for a penny. But there was a catch. The catch was you had to buy something like 12 or 20 more over the next couple of years, and those all cost $75 each, if I recall that correctly.
Well, you got an attitude with you, I'll tell you that.
It wasn't that expensive, but it was a lot. And so, like for me, I got my 12 or 13 records and tapes, and then I also got a collections notice at some point. And I think I was 13 or 14 years old. My mom's like, what in the world is this?
Well, this is a disaster.
And there it was. So were you ever a part of the record and tape club? Made me think about this. What was the first album that you ever bought? Or maybe, depends on how old you are, right? So what was the first, we used to call them albums. I think technically they're still called that, but the music industry has changed so much. What was the first album or song that you ever got? If you're younger, maybe it was the first one you ever downloaded. Where you're like, wow, I just downloaded that song. It's mine now. It's on my iPod. It's on my phone. Or if you are a little bit older, I would say if you're 40 and older, you probably did the Columbia record and tape thing at some point. Or maybe you did it with movies when they went that direction. What was the first CD, tape, cassette that you ever bought? First music that you ever bought, and maybe you just listened to it like crazy. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. Thought about this just because I think it's a little bit sentimental. Columbia House records and tapes, that was a big deal when a lot of us were kids. And I know that for some of you, you're younger and you're going, what in the world are you talking about? There was no online. There was no internet. And I know this sounds like it's the Civil War, but it is, it's the way it was. And when you got all of your tapes in the mail, the first ones for me were tapes, like cassette tapes, not 8-track. Some of you might be thinking, is he talking about 8 tracks? No, not me. I was not doing the 8 tracks.
I'm the bad guy?
I was a little beyond that, but I think they were still available, to be fair. 888-528-2557, open line Friday. What was the first music album you ever bought? 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Here's an ad from the Columbia record. If you somehow maybe forgot, here's an ad from the 90s Columbia House commercial. Number 2.
Look for these special offers in this week's newspapers, magazines, or your mail.
I just noticed that ad said big enough to entertain Canada. Like the normal one said big enough to entertain America. But they had that one say Canada. This is before AI, friends. That means they had to get that choir to sing it twice. Wonder how many countries that thing was in. Anyway, what was your first album that you got? Columbia House Records tapes closed. It's probably even more surprising to you that company's still around. Right? That was the first thing I thought is, wait, Columbia House, they're still doing it? Are people still sending in a penny? Maybe they're going out of business because we stopped making the penny, and they're like, how do we do this anymore? I guess we can't do it. The pennies are gone, and there goes our entire business model. Thanks, Trump. 888-528-2557. Bonnie in Lakewood, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show. Hi, Bonnie.
Hello. Thank you. Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
My first record, I never belonged to Columbia, but my first record album that I bought was Meet the Beatles.
Meet the Beatles or the Beagles?
Meet the Beatles, the group.
Yeah, the Beatles. All right. Meet the Beatles. That was your first album.
And then it went subsequently to other Beatle albums.
Yeah.
But that was
your first.
Fun.
That was your first one. Now, how often did you play that?
Continuously.
Right.
And I put my ears right next to the speaker.
I bet you did. I bet you did. Now, did you ever go see them in person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
They were pretty tiny, way over there, but it was neat that I did go to see them with my sister. Yeah.
Yeah. What a great memory. A really great memory. Do you go see like Paul McCartney? He's still doing it, after all these years.
No, I've never seen him, but I've heard his music. I do listen to his music. I don't have albums, but
yeah, well, who does anymore? And that's
I know.
that's part of the thing. Well, Bonnie, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. It's open line Friday. And what was your first music album that you bought or first song you downloaded, if that is your era? What was the first cassette tape that you actually purchased or CD? It's funny because the industry changed so much over this period of time. And if you're just joining us, the Columbia House Records and Tapes program, remember those guys? They announced today that they're closing down on September 15th. So you can no longer get your 12 CDs for a penny. They're not taking any more customers. I'm surprised they're taking any customers. I can't even believe this is still a thing. So what was the first music you ever bought, like with your own money? Like my aunt, I think I've told you, my aunt gave me a John Denver cassette tape. I think that was my very first cassette tape that was like mine, but I didn't buy it. I guess she gave it to me. So there's something else about when you have your money and you're probably a kid and you're like, what am I going to buy? What, I'm going to listen to some music, and we used to have to, actually buy it in a particular, media. 888-528-2557. Michael in Reseda, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, Pastor Scott, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad, thank you. What a great topic. My first album was, you remember the station here in L.A., KRLA?
Yes, that's our sister station, AM 870. The answer, it is KRLA.
Okay.
I am
so
sitting in the KRLA studio in the morning where Jen Horn sits every day from her show.
Awesome. Well, back in the 60s, they had an album that came out that was like the top 50 hits. So it was like I had all these great songs that were always playing on the radio on a 2-album set. It was awesome. That was the first album that I ever bought.
You know what? That's such a great memory. You know, and I'm trying to remember when I did my 12 or 13 for a penny. One of them that I got was one of those. I just now remembered it, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was totally eclectic, and it was 12 songs I think from whatever the top hits. So it came from the radio station. This album that you had.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It was pretty awesome. There was like, I think, if I remember right, I think it was like 32 songs that were on it.
I'll bet.
And it was great. I mean, the good thing about Los Angeles, we've been so blessed with all the great announcers, from Vin Scully to Dick Enberg to Chick Hearn to the real Don Steele.
Yeah.
I mean, I go back a ways.
all of the guys.
KHJ, all the great stations.
Wink Martindale.
Yes.
Wink
Martindale.
Didn't LA have, we're all aging ourselves now, Wolfman Jack.
Yes.
That crowd.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been blessed with so many of them but such great music.
Yeah.
Over the years.
What a cool
The 50s,
first album.
60s and 70s were fantastic years of music.
Somebody's telling me right now, Josh, our call screener, he just told me that the KRLA $1 Million Sound album, is that what yours was called?
I'm not for sure on what it was called.
He
but
said
I got to go look in my collection. I still might have that album.
Well, he says it's on eBay right now. So if you don't have it and you want it, I don't know how much it is, but it's out there. Somebody is selling it. That's a cool
Wow.
first record.
It is.
Michael, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Glenn from West Covina, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, Pastor Scott, how you doing? God bless you, brother.
Thank you, Glenn. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's funny you bring this topic up. It's something that I talk to a lot of people about, is remembering the very first album I ever bought.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to a place called Licorice Pizza. I don't know if that
I totally
rings a bell,
remember
but
that.
Went to Licorice Pizza and bought an album, Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare.
Well, that was your first album, Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me ask you something. Was that an album that you let your parents know that you got, or did you hide that from your parents?
Well, you know what? He kind of, I don't know if he mellowed out a little bit at this time, but my mom, she loved a song he did, Only Women Bleed. It was a huge hit on the radio, and it was a really good song. But so she was okay with me buying that album.
It's an interesting thing that our parents' response to things of that era. And I think it's interesting because today, like whatever might have offended you back then, is so tame compared to the things that are there today.
Yeah, that's true.
And parents might be less offended today than they were then. That's part of the problem, I think. As a part of it. Yeah. Now, were you ever part of the Columbia House records and tapes? You ever send in your penny and have to buy all those?
I sure did. I was a huge music person, and I ended up seeing that Columbia House in the L.A. Times. I think, I don't know, one of the Parade magazine in there or something.
Oh, yeah.
Sent it in and got my 14 albums for a penny, and that was one thing my parents made sure too, is you do this and you're gonna finish what you owe them. I think they knew what was up with the catch there.
Oh yeah.
But I ended up I got all my records or tapes. I don't remember which one I got. But I remember finishing it out, and they used to do a thing where if you didn't buy something, they sent you something automatically.
That's right.
And what was funny about that was they sent me an album from a band called They Might Be Giants. And I ended up, I never even heard of that band. I wore that thing out. That thing was so good.
That's so funny. See, that's the catch I think that people need to understand, is that you get your money for a penny, but you committed to buying a certain number at full price. And We're talking about $15, I think is probably what it was. And $15 in 1990 was probably like $50 today, right? Nobody was actually paying $15 for an album, but they did. And you know what? And then but then they sent you this card. If you didn't mail the card back, like an actual mail, put a stamp on it, mail it back by a certain date, then they would send you whatever the random album was of the month, like They Might Be Giants, and a bill.
Yep,
And
that's for sure. Here's your They Might Be Giants record, and you owe us $21.
That's right. I figure that's right. Because there's also plus shipping and handling.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And shipping might have been $2, but no one knows what handling is, so it was another 10.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
that's why so many of us got those collection notices eventually. My mom's like, "What's this?" Oh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, Pastor Scott, thank you. That was a great subject, and I love your show, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Glenn. Have a great day. Thanks for calling Open Line Friday. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday in the Pastor Scott Show. You can call about anything you want, so feel free to change the subject. If you got a Bible question, a spiritual matter, something on your mind that you want to call about, feel free to call 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. The question I'm asking as we start out today is, what was your first music album, or maybe the first song you downloaded, or whatever that meant, to you in your era? What was it? 888-528-2557. Yvonne from Hacienda Heights, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. What was your first album or your first song?
I'm going to go out there. Donny Osmond.
Donny Osmond. Wow. Was it Donny Osmond and the Osmond brothers, or the Osmond family, or just Donny himself?
Just him by himself. Just him by himself.
Oh, okay. All right. And what era was this? Was this puppy love era, or was this?
Yes.
Okay.
Puppy
all right.
love.
All right.
and it's still puppy love for me, but unfortunately, he's married.
He is married. Yes, and he's moved beyond that stage apparently.
Yeah, and he's still singing. He's still making music, and that's good. But the thing is, I still have my albums.
You still have them. They're back now. You can buy albums if you go into Best Buy or one of these places. You buy the vinyl, or Barnes and Noble. They've got albums now.
But they're so expensive.
They're really expensive, but it's because not as many people are buying them, right? And so they have to produce them. It just costs more because they don't make as many, but it's coming back.
Yeah.
There's something that people, in fact, if you collect those albums now, why do you do that? Why do you like that? As opposed to getting it for just a subscription on Spotify or Apple Music or something, people are actually buying albums that went away and now they're back.
I do that too. I do Pandora, when I'm doing my walks. Sometimes I'll buy, a song, but most of the time I just listen to Pandora, random, whatever the genre is. But my albums are the original from when I was a kid.
Wow.
I still have them.
You still have them. They're around. I see some people who've got those around. Well, that's pretty cool, Yvonne. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show with that. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Open Line Friday. Call about anything you'd like on Open Line Friday. Pastor Sterling, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
It's Pastor Sparling.
Oh, sorry, Pastor Sparling?
Anyway, your name is Pastor Scott, right?
Yeah.
All you do is look at the stop sign. Any stop sign you go to, you see the P for Scott, P for Pastor, and S for Scott. That's your name, but it's spoken of backwards. They made a memory, but Daniel, I was a little blank guy.
You know what, Pastor? I don't have a good connection. I'm going to put you on hold, and we'll see if we can fix it, or we'll have you call back so we can get a sharper connection. Can't really hear you too well. 888-528-2557. Sounded like he was saying that stop signs remind him of Pastor Scott because there's a P and an S in there. Maybe I didn't hear that right at all. Is that what he was saying, Jose? I feel like that's what I was getting from that. So hang on there, and we'll come back to you after the break and see if we get a better connection. 888-528-2557. Marge from Montebello, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi.
Hi, Marge.
I was thinking that I remember first 8 tracks came and then cassette, and I even remember some cars had actual record players in them. But I couldn't remember, did albums come before 45? They must have, because if you had a 45, you had to buy that little plastic disc.
Right. Well, I remember you could buy the 45s were singles. right? So
Yeah.
there would be whatever song you liked on one side, and then there was side B, which was some random song that sometimes was pretty good and sometimes was pretty weird.
A lesser desirable song was on side B.
That's right.
But if you had the little plastic disc, you were out of luck because
You couldn't play it because it had a bigger hole in the middle.
right.
Yeah.
But my first album was probably the Midnighters.
Oh, the Midnighters.
Yeah, who was actually Little Willie G is now serving the Lord wholeheartedly. He's a great minister.
Mm.
The gospel.
Yeah.
So but back in the day, it was.
Back in the day. Well, Marge, thanks for calling. I got to go to a break right now. It's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. What was your first album, your first song you downloaded? What was your first music that you bought? 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. We'll be right back.
The Pastor Scott Show returns in 4 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 15 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 5 seconds. Welcome back to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, man, God bless you, Pastor Scott.
Call Pastor Scott now at 888-528-2557. That's 888-528-2557. Now back to Pastor Scott.
It's Open Line Friday, Pastor Scott Show. Call about anything you would like. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. You can call about anything. Feel free to change the subject, Bible question, spiritual matter, anything on your mind, something in the news is fine. Whatever you want to ask about or talk about, call right now. 888-528-2557. Before the break, we were talking about what was your first music album that you bought or downloaded or however you came, about it. We're talking about it because the Columbia House Records and Tapes Club, remember that? They announced, number one, surprised everyone that they're still around. And number two, they announced that they're not going to be around after September 15th. This is a commercial for that crowd from about my era.
Music stirs you up.
Money for nothing.
Music shakes you out.
Money for nothing.
Music takes hold of you, and when it's good, it doesn't let go of you. The Columbia Record and Tape Club can help you get a lot more music.
Every time you go.
Just find our ad. It's in your Sunday paper. Pick any 11 records or tapes for a penny and see how to get even more music free. Bruce Springsteen, Madonna, Dire Straits, Phil Collins, hundreds more. All the music you love. The Columbia Record and Tape Club. No one else gives you so much for so little. 11 albums, 1 cent. Find our ad in Sunday's paper, take it to your mailbox. You'll get a lot more music. You'll get a lot more life. Look in your Sunday paper and favorite magazines.
You'll get a lot more music, and you'll get a lot more bills in the mail, and music you don't like, music you don't want, but you still have to pay for. That was the way the Columbia House thing worked for many of us. I think if you're under 40 or over 40, you probably did this at some point. Did you ever get caught up in that? In whether you did or not, what was your first music album that you ever bought or downloaded? 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Carolyn in California, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Oh, thank you, Pastor. Yes, I ordered it for the family. I was the of a sister and a mother and father. The Columbia Record Club. I read that right. So you got 4 for $1, and you had to commit maybe to buy 4 more at the regular price. But we did that. I did that rather than a number of years. I kept the subscription. Now I can't tell you the first one because there were 4, and I have since alphabetized them by title versus I was keeping them in chronological order. But for instance, I know the earliest was West Side Story. It was Ferrante. Andre Castellani's. I rifled through some of them because I still have them in the stereo inset. Remember the console?
Right.
You had a place to put your albums and the turntables on the other part. And I have Best of 68, Best of 69, so I know it goes back that far. And we were very conservative, religious, so Mahalia Jackson was one of the earlier ones. And I recall you had to pick a category, jazz, spiritual, so your default, and if you didn't stop that default, it would be sent to you.
That's right.
So
I remember that.
It was a wonderful memory, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot you had to pick a category, so you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So if you didn't check that box right, who knows what you're going to get?
Exactly.
Right. You didn't really know what you're going to get anyway. And if you didn't send that card back, then you owed them $1 million to pay for that album that you didn't want in the first place.
Right, but it was a great deal because you didn't necessarily know go to a store back, what was it, Tower Records, the different things, and rifle through the racks and go through the catalog that came, and you got titles you necessarily wouldn't come across, like the Exodus was one, the movie theme. And the most played, because you asked what was that, we played them all, but I think the one we wore out the most was Goldfinger.
Goldfinger, like the soundtrack to the movie?
Yeah, Shirley Bassey.
Shirley Bassey.
The title track.
You know, Shirley Bassey is still around singing that song.
Oh,
I'm not kidding. Go on YouTube and look up Shirley Bassey sings Goldfinger. It maybe been 5 or 6 years since the last one I saw, and she's got to be 80 years old, and it's pretty good. Pretty good singing that old song. Well, Carolyn, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you want on Open Line Friday. That means you can change the subject if you want to. Bible question, spiritual matter, anything on your mind, you can ask about that. 888-528-2557. And the question I'm asking right now is, what was your first album that you ever bought? Your first music album? Maybe it was a cassette. Maybe it was a CD. Maybe it was a song you downloaded. But whatever it was, what did you pick? And were you a part of the Columbia House Records and Tape Club, and how did that treat you? 888-528-2557. Scott from Brea, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Well, that was fast. Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Scott.
Hi, my name's Scott, just like yours.
Well,
so,
excellent.
I'm not a pastor though, so apparently not all pastors are named Scott.
Well, if we, that's right. Well, we're all pastors though. If you're a believer, we can get into that if you want.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So over the past 40 years, so I started going to Greg Laurie's church, Harvest Christian Fellowship over there.
Yeah.
This was 40 years ago. So it's funny, though, because what I try to tell anyone on the street, and I'll do it in 30 seconds, I'll do it right now. I tell them, look, you have no idea. Adam and Eve were kicked out of heaven just eating a piece of fruit. You don't understand. God had to kill an animal, put animal skins on them. Otherwise, they would have died. You can't get into heaven. So I know the picture in the Bible has fire and all this stuff, and I believe that is true. I believe anyone left alone without the decency of earth even, let alone God himself, right? You are going to be terrified.
Well, we're going to be terrified if we don't know Jesus.
Amen.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, we are living in a time where that's becoming more obvious. Earthquakes and everything. And I tell people, look, God is really terrifying, but he's wonderful. And look what he did in Genesis 3, right? He says, I'm going to smite this dude, and I'm going to leave him around for a while for whatever reason. and people are going to get saved, but it's slim. And people have to take him seriously.
Well, people need to trust. People need to trust Jesus. Yep, your job is to live like Jesus and let people know about him, and let God deal with the rest of it with everybody. Did you have a first record?
I know. I did. It's funny. Silk Degrees was in my brother's Pinto, and he had put a turbocharger in it. Believe it or not, 2-wheel wheelies in that sucker. I don't know if I saw it or not, but it's etched in my mind, right? Because that sucker could move. I saw him in fly. Yeah, well, he didn't know how to work on cars just right, and he didn't have the money to get it, do what you got to do to make it work well. So Silk Degrees was in that, and I took my first love, Tina, and she was exactly my height and 20 pounds lighter, and you know how it is. You break up, and even though I didn't know the Lord back then, I was pure as pure could be, because she was a Catholic and lovely. And she, right? I mean,
okay, well, glad to hear that.
Isn't that funny?
Yes. Well, that's an interesting story. Scott, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. Now, Pinto. Remember the Ford Pinto? I knew people who had a Pinto. And there was a time when the bad thing about the Pinto is if it got rear-ended, it apparently would blow up. I think they fixed that problem at some point. 888-528-2557, Pastor Scott Show. Ron from Altadena, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
How you doing, Pastor Scott?
I'm good. Ron, how are you?
I'm doing good.
What was your first music album?
My first music album was, I didn't buy the album. My mother probably bought it. But I recorded Aretha Franklin on a reel-to-reel portable tape player. So that was the first song I've ever recorded.
So you recorded like you had a reel-to-reel tape player, and you like had a microphone, and you recorded it off of what? Your mom's player?
My mom's stereo.
Ah,
I put the microphone on top of the speaker and recorded Aretha Franklin.
That's great. That was you invented the mixtape. You might have been the first.
Yeah. Oh, you think so?
Maybe. You should get some credit for that somewhere.
Yeah, somehow or somewhere, right?
You know that what made you decide to do that? I mean, that's such a great kid memory thing to do.
Well, that was the only way that I was gonna be able to record off the stereo,
Yeah.
and there was no other way that I knew of at that time. So that was the best way I knew how to do it.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And they never sent you like a something in the mail about sending in some royalties for making your own copy of that.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause but then I didn't know I could even do that. But still,
Right.
That was my first recording.
I love it. I love it. Well, Ron, that's really cool. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. I think for a lot of us, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, probably, other than you spent your penny to get your 13 or 14 records and tapes and then a lifetime of commitment of buying too expensive of albums after that with Columbia House. Other than that, you had a boombox or a stereo of some kind with a tape recorder in it, and you would record off the radio your songs. I remember doing that. And you make your little tape, and then you try to like cut off the announcer, right? Because you just wanted the music. And it was always annoying if the announcer talked over the song a little bit too long. It's like, come on, Casey Kasem, be quiet. We don't really care about the countdown that much. We just want to hear the song, I'm Casey Kasem. He'd always say that, right? The song would be beginning, but he'd always have to remind you, you're listening to America's Top 40. I'm Casey Kasem. Well, okay, we know who you are. That's why we listen. 888-528-2557. Frank from Ventura. Welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Yeah, hi. Seems like you got a lot of youngsters on there talking. I've got one from probably 1965. My first love. I was 17 and she was 14. I got a bunch of flack from about that. But the song was called Red Rubber Ball. I'll come bouncing back to you. I forgot who did it or what year exactly. But I played that over and over again and cried a lot.
Song by the, let's see here, Circle. That's who.
Circle.
That's who. The Circle. That's who they said that's from. Well, that's cool. You remember that. So did you have it like on a 45?
Yeah, it was a 45.
Yeah.
I had the little insert so you could play it on the little spindle
thing in
there.
the middle. Yeah. Frank, I got to go to a break. Appreciate you. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. Be right back.
The Pastor Scott Show returns in 4 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 15 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 5 seconds. Welcome back to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Scott. I love your show. #1 show, Church on the Air.
Call Pastor Scott now at 888-528-2557. That's 888-528-2557. Now back to Pastor Scott.
Welcome back, everybody. Pastor Scott Show. It's Open Line Friday. Call about anything you'd like. We're live on Friday, 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. You call with a Bible question, spiritual matter, something in the news you want to talk about. Whatever it is, you can call. Feel free to change the subject. We can go back and forth with subjects. 888-528-2557. Go to 42.
Now, here's how to turn those 13 albums into 14 for the same penny. Look for this gold box in the ad. Then write the number of any extra album you want in that box, and it's yours. That's 14 albums for a penny. If you've never taken advantage of a music club before, believe me, this is your golden opportunity. Look for the ad and TV guide, fill in the gold box, and have you got music.
That was Dick Clark selling you on the Columbia House Record and Tape Club, which actually went out of business. They just announced this. You can no longer do this like in 2026. They're still doing it, apparently. You can't do it anymore, though. They announced that they're done next month. I'm surprised it's even around. I had no idea. I signed up for that. That gold box commercial reminds me, I'm pretty sure that I had 2 gold boxes. But for me, it was like, oh, they added another gold box. And I got 14 or 15 cassette tapes back in my day for the price for 1 penny. And then the trick was they'd send you a card in the mail that you had to mail back. And if you didn't mail it back, then they would mail you a random cassette every month. And you had to pay for that. And it was like $20 to $22, which in 1985 dollars was $75. Almost, right? 888-528-2557. I'm not joking, by the way, that I got collections. And I was still a kid. And my mom's like, what's this? Well, I haven't paid for the song, these albums I don't want. 888-528-2557. So you can call about anything. What is your question we're asking is, what is your first album, the first music you ever bought? Why'd you buy that? And maybe it's you downloaded it. Maybe you bought it on a record or tape or whatever. 888-528-2557. Tony from Whittier, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor. I love your show. In 1965, I was a sophomore at Mount Carmel High School, and Van Morrison was with a band called Them. Okay, they cut a 45, which is the one I bought. The first side was Baby Please Don't Go. It went to number 1 for about 3 weeks. A lot of people didn't know that on the other side was Gloria. And when people found out about Gloria, they started calling a radio station, and Gloria, on the flip side, became number 1 and was up there like about 8 weeks. Except for the Beatles, I don't know any other group that's ever done that.
Now, it's so interesting to me that you remember all of that, and but that tells you how important it was, right, to have those albums that we really, if you bought your music and you had it, you probably listened to it 1,000 times.
Yeah, it wore out. You're right.
Yep, you wore it out. And then there's that side B, which normally is normally not a big hit, but once in a while. There you go. Tony, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. John in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, how you doing, Pastor Scott?
Good, John.
You brought up the Pinto earlier.
Yeah, the exploding Ford Pintos.
Correct. So there's a thing called the Pinto principle. They never actually fixed it. Ford made a decision that it would be cheaper to just wait for people to die and pay off the lawsuits than it would be to recall the whole car.
Now, did they never actually or did they just stop making it? Because they got, if I remember that right, the controversy wasn't just that there was this defect, and if the Pinto got rear-ended, it might explode. The controversy is they knew about the defect, but they decided that it wasn't worth whatever the cost was to fix it, that the cost of the lawsuits for burned or dead people was better.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they call that the Pinto principle. That's exactly right. Corporate America, unfortunately, does that more often than we like to admit.
It's hard to, and that's, and I think it was like $11 though. It wasn't like $1,000. It was like 11.
Yeah, it was just multiplied by every car. They just didn't want to.
Yeah, it's a lot of money when you multiply it, but yeah, that's one of the reasons that there's a lot more regulations, right? If you don't like regulations, I get it, but sometimes there's regulations because of the Ford principle or the Pinto principle.
Yes, I'm 100% with you, Pastor Scott. Those people need Jesus. That's for sure.
You know what? It's a horrible decision to say, well, how much is it worth to get sued for people maybe dying because they get rear-ended? That's the actual conversation. It's not like ignorance. That's
full knowledge to just let people die when you could easily prevent it for mere money.
Well, hopefully, cars are a lot safer now than they were back then. So hopefully, we're not making those decisions now. That's why it might even be why we have recalls. And there's a history for that, where now that the reason you've got recalls for even simple parts is exactly this problem, that companies have to fix it. If it is something that is determined as wrong. John, I appreciate your phone call, 888-528-2557. Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you would like, 888-528-2557. You can bring up a subject that we've talked about before, or you can continue with what we're talking about, or bring it up again, 888-528-2557. Frank in Simi Valley, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, Pastor Scott, good to talk to you again. Is the dynamic duo back on, you and Jose?
Jose is here. He is here today, although he'll be gone Monday because Jose gets to go to Hawaii.
All right. I haven't been listening as much, but I haven't heard it. Anyway, Scott, Pastor, before I get to my question, I want to, if you can educate, because I think a lot of people and believers don't realize when they get to heaven what Jesus they're going to meet, because it's like you're not going to see the bearded, kind of frail man with holding a lamb and a halo. Can you tell believers what they're going to see? Because when they confront him, they're going to probably think, I'm in the wrong place, and run the other way. But if you know your Bible, can you let them know?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. We don't know what he's going to look like, but we do know that our knees are going to hit the ground. That every knee will bow.
He's going to have fire coming out of his eyes, a double-edged sword out of his mouth.
Well, that is how he's described.
That's how the Bible describes.
That's how John describes him, I think, in the book of Revelation in his vision. Whether that's what we're going to see or not, I don't know. But I can tell you that however it is, when you face Jesus, you're going to know who he is. You're going to know the truth about him, and your knees are going to hit the ground. And the big thing for us is hopefully we already knew who he was, and he knows us.
Right.
That's what we want to do now. We want to say Jesus is Lord because we've already believed that.
Because it's going to be frightening for many people. Pastor, I wanted to get to my question about the the teacher that Houston, I believe, that was emotional about his kids not knowing
Oh
how
yeah,
to
we talked
read or
about
write.
that on Monday, I think.
Few weeks. Okay. I wasn't sure. I saw the video, but I wasn't sure on his. Was he feeling like the education system let the students down, or society in a whole let them down?
I think his main point is that society as a whole, like part of it's the system. And if you weren't listening, there's a viral video of a teacher. He was a teacher to seniors in high school in Houston, in the Houston school system, and it was the second day of school, and he was crying because he has senior students who could not read, who could not do basic reading. And so he's very emotional about that, and just pointing out that if you can't read or write, you don't really have a future.
Right.
Like you have a future, but you're very limited. Like this is something we should not be allowing. And so we had a lot of discussion about that because we've been allowing it for a long time. There's a whole lot of other teachers who have gone online to put their own videos out and say, yeah, it's right. Our kids can't read, they can't write.
Right. Well, here's my angle, my insight. I'm actually a substitute teacher with LUSD, and I've everything from pre-K to high school. I stick to the elementary age though, because I've done middle school, and it's the worst. It's like walking into like a probation center. Kids are dodgy. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
They're dodging things. They're dodging work. They're not. And so to me, my angle on things is, at some point, by the time they're a certain age, if they don't realize that, I need to get on the ball about this math stuff, this reading and all this. Part of me means thinks it's on them.
On the kids.
It's only so much that adults and parents, we know we're parents. There's only so much you can tell your kids to do, and at some point they have to take responsibility. And it kind of it shows what the bigger picture of society is right now, with everybody wanting to throw in the towel and just complain or whine and just do whatever they want.
Isn't the responsibility, though, ultimately with the adults? I mean, yes, every one of these children eventually is going to have to take responsibility for themselves. But when they're, grade school age, like you're saying, don't parents and teachers and everybody involved in the school system, don't we have, because it used to work. That wasn't the case when, I presume, when you were in middle school. Like middle schoolers are always crazy, right? But not dodgy like you're saying now.
Well, I think it was even when I was there, because I was like, okay, I got to get my act together. I got to get to my classes, do my projects, get my homework.
In maturity, yeah, you start to own that. But I would say that I don't know how old you are, but in my day, 1980s.
I'm 55, by the way.
Oh, all right. So we're the same age.
So we're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in our day, though, almost everybody in our 8th grade class could read. And read pretty much at grade level, and do math pretty much at grade level. There were kids who struggled, and there were kids who excelled, but all of us could do it, and you got held back if you couldn't. Those days are gone, and I think that's not the fault of the kids. I think that's the fault of a culture that's decided it's too hard, and it makes us feel bad, and the people who suffer are those kids.
You're right, and then we're inundated. The numbers are higher. There's no holding back kids. I mean, there's nothing. It's because we got so many other kids coming in to the next grade level.
Yeah.
It's like you got to move them on.
Well,
and that's unfortunate. That's the truth.
Yeah, we can't, and I'm afraid that you might be right, that we want to shrug our shoulders and say, well, what are you going to do? But as a society, it's not sustainable. We will lose everything we have if we do not fix that. That is that's just a fact. Thank you for calling, Frank. I got to take a break here in just a minute. 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you'd like on Open Line Friday. So when I take a break, we got a lot of calls. Corey and Gilbert and Alan and Rick and others. You can hold on, and we'll get your calls when we come back. You can bring up anything you'd like on Open Line Friday. You can talk about Bible questions, spiritual matter. You can be just like call we just had, talk about something we did earlier in the week, something completely new, or you can bring us back to something. The floor is yours on Open Line Friday. Call about anything. 888-528-2557. Call right now. Gilbert, Corey, Alan, Rick, others, I'll get your calls when the Pastor Scott Show returns in just 4 minutes. Don't go away. Hey, one of the things that's so important is taking care of your health, and sleep apnea is one of the things that affects millions of Americans, and it affects me. I went and I took one of those sleep tests, and sure enough, I got sleep apnea, and I knew it already because I was snoring so bad. My wife wanted to kick me out of the room. My dentist was telling me I'm grinding my teeth. He says, "You got sleep apnea. You got to do something about that." Well, I didn't want the CPAP machine. In the back of my mind, I thought, that's the direction I'm going. Do I want that thing? I know it might be a good thing. But then I learned a couple of things. First thing I learned was that sleep apnea can kill you. Heart attack, stroke, about 170 different ailments. I don't want that. But then I learned about Dr. Eddie Simon's miracle device. Dr. Eddie Simon is right here in Los Angeles. His device is not the CPAP machine. It's a replacement for it. It fits completely in my mouth. It moves my jaw forward and puts my tongue in the right place while I sleep. It opens up my airway, and I sleep great. It resolved my snoring and sleep apnea. Call Dr. Eddie Simon to see if this works for you. 800-92-SMILE, 800-92-SMILE, or go to tmjexpert.com. Tell him Pastor Scott sent you. We'll be right back.
The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 15 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 5 seconds. Welcome to the Pastor Scott Show. Call Pastor Scott now at 888-528-2557. That's 888-528-2557. And now, here's Pastor Scott.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show. We're live, and it's Friday. That means it's Open Line Friday. That's right. It's Open Line Friday when you can call about anything you'd like. Open Line Friday sponsored by Berglund and Johnson, the personal injury attorneys with offices in L.A., Orange County, serving Southern California. You can get a free consultation. You got a legal issue you think you might have or you have legal questions, call them now for a free consultation. 1-800, the number 4, if hurt. 1-800, the number 4, if hurt, Berglund and Johnson. All right, Open Line Friday. That means you can call about anything you'd like on Open Line Friday on the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. You can ask a Bible question, spiritual matter, something in the news. It can be something fun, something that's just on your mind. You can bring up a subject from before. We'll let you change the subjects. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. All right, going to go to the calls here. Many of you have been holding for a while. Thank you for that. Gilbert in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
How's it going, Pastor Scott?
Good. Gilbert, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Two things. My first album I purchased with my own money was the Led Zeppelin 4 album, which had Black Dog, Rock and Roll, and all those old good songs.
Led Zeppelin 4, all right.
Yeah.
With your own money. Was it a tape?
Yeah.
Was it an album, record? What was it?
It was an album. At that time, it was albums and 8-tracks.
Oh, it's still the 8-tracks. All right.
Yeah, so I got the album.
All right. Well, cool. Do you still have it?
You know what? I do, in a matter of fact.
Yeah. People don't throw those away too often.
Scratched up, a bit scratched up, but I still have it.
Okay, you said
but
you
I'm
had.
I'm thinking of maybe trying to purchase an LP player.
It's coming back.
I've seen some at Target. Yeah, it's coming back.
It's coming back.
It's coming back.
It might be fun to see if how badly scratched it is. Maybe it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have a Rainbow album too, which I got a little bit afterwards. That's when Ronnie James Dio joined Richie Blackmore, and they made that group Rainbow.
Yeah.
I still have that album too.
Yeah.
So those are two albums to look forward to playing with.
Cool. Did you say you had a second point today?
Yes. The thing is, I was going to ask you what your stand is on modern day Babylon.
On what is the modern day Babylon?
Yeah, is it because the Bible talks about the modern day Babylon and how she was, and then in 1 hour she's no more.
Right, in the Book of Revelation.
Right.
Well,
do you believe it could be the United States?
There's a lot of different theories about that. You know, some people would say that it is the European Union. Some people think it's the United States. Some people think it's just a metaphor for, I don't know, the way government works in general, right? That everything is going to fall eventually. Every way of life, every philosophy that is going to eventually fall. Some people even think
new government, right?
Well, ultimately it falls because the new government is Jesus. So we will have a kingdom with Jesus literally sitting on the throne. That's kind of the idea. So what I would say, probably the bigger answer is that Babylon represents humanity organizing itself in rebellion against God. Like if you wanted to symbolize it more, so maybe there is a leader country. Some people think, people have had a lot of suggestions. You can find books, unfortunately, that people write saying, this is definitely the way it is. When we went to war in Iraq, the first time, I think, back in the 90s, literally the location of ancient Babylon is Iraq. And so, and Saddam Hussein was actually rebuilding parts of ancient Babylon. There were, not just antiquities, but he was trying to rebuild some Nebuchadnezzar's palace and a lot of crazy stuff that he was trying to do. And there were people who would say, see, it's going to be a literal Babylon running from the same region on earth. But I don't think the Bible is definitely saying things like that. It's talking about Babylon the Great, certainly represents power and wealth. It's also immoral, anti-God, and Christians just disagree about what John intended it to represent specifically. But I think the biggest point is it is going to fall. And that at the end of the day, our faith needs to be in Jesus, in the kingdom of God.
Right.
So
Exactly.
as much as I, want the U.S. to be there in the end, it's hard to read the scriptures and look at end times and find the U.S. in it.
Right.
We either don't exist, or we're not relevant, or maybe we're the bad guy, or it's just not there, it seems to me, in at least in the way that many people might look for it. And it's probably just a world system. World system is ultimately going to collapse, even the best systems. Kingdom of God is where it's at. That's why we put our faith in Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah.
We win. At the end, we win.
Jesus wins. You got it.
That's right. All right, Pastor Scott, I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. Alan in Westchester, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hello. Thank you, Pastor Scott, for having me on.
Yeah.
I want to talk about my first album that I purchased.
Yeah, what was your first album?
Back in 65 or 66, I purchased an album that was about 8 or 9 years old. It was released in 1958, Elvis's Golden Record.
Elvis's Golden Records?
Yeah, that was his first 14 golden records.
That was your first album, so a compilation of Elvis's first 14 gold records.
Correct.
Cool.
That was what it was, and it was most of the songs that you remember from the 50s with Elvis.
Yeah.
Those were on there, and it was, of course, a great album. It was a great album, and I listened to that till the grooves wore out, and I had to buy another one. Yeah, it didn't sound too scratchy,
Yeah. When you hear Elvis, one of the things is there's no mistaking who that is.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't miss it.
Even if you don't know who it is, you know it's Elvis.
That's right. Even when you don't know who it is, you know it's Elvis. I think that's about right. Alan, thank you for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you would like. So we've been talking about what is your first album that you remember. The reason is the Columbia House Record and Tape Club announced that they're ending today, and they'll be done September 15th. And number one, it's a surprise that they're still there. And number two, did you ever do that? Did you ever get your 13 records and tapes for a penny or whatever your deal was? Maybe if you did it in the 90s, and they were huge throughout the 90s. They started to lose it with downloads and everything, but 16 million subscribers to that in the 90s. But it was also movies, DVDs, VHS, CDs. It's an amazing business, but it has ended. But I think it kind of means something for a lot of us who that was a part of our life. 888-528-2557. This is the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you would like. Bible questions, spiritual matter, anything on your mind. Feel free to call and change the subject if you'd like. 888-528-2557. Rick in Ontario, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show. Hi, Rick. You still with me? Rick, you can call back if you want to, 888-528-2557. Another Rick, different Rick in Ontario.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Rick trying to hog it up. My dad had a 51 Ford convertible. We took it to Earl Scheib, had it painted for $29.95.
$29.95. It was $99.95 in my day.
Over on Holt there. And it was Jan and Dean was my album. I remember they were out there on the beach in the Woody.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was a great album.
Cool.
And
Jan and Dean.
one time I was talking about Wipeout and just popped right out of my mouth. It was Surfer Joe was on the other side.
Oh, on your album. No kidding.
No, not on the album, on the 45.
Yeah, on the 45. I'm sorry, yeah. The record.
That was a 45 that had both sides were fantastic.
Yeah, that was unusual because usually side B is sort of the unknown, we're throwing this at you, but you're not going to play it on the radio.
Super Joe just took it up off the chart.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And, bench seats, they went out about the time bucket seats came in. Your girl couldn't sit next to you anymore.
Yeah, they changed that, didn't they? Rick,
Yeah,
thanks for calling
did.
for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. I wonder if the conversation about your first music, like why does that register with us so much? Like why do we remember certain songs? I think that's the same thing in church music, in whatever it is, that whatever first impacted us as a kid, that is, or as a young person, that sticks with us. And there are thousands of songs, right? That just all over the place. If you've been around a while, you've heard thousands of songs. 888-528-2557. It's open line Friday, 888-528-2557. Don in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Oh, hi, Scott. As I was listening in that first hour, I began to wonder if I had dialed into K-Earth 101 instead of KKLA. I love nostalgia, and I could just dive into it all day long, but I try to discipline myself to stay in the here and now because we're living in such momentous times, they just can't be ignored. And so I wanted to change the subject in a totally different direction. I was actually going to talk about the national debt.
Okay.
Passed $40 trillion on, I think it was Tuesday.
Yes.
Officially. And I also mentioned that one guy mentioned something about Babylon. I think that's extremely important to identify who that is, because I think it's the United States in Revelation 16 and 18. And it's not a missing in the prophecies. It's front and center. It's kind of veiled.
Some people believe that.
And so, yeah, well, I think that's something to ponder. But anyway, back to the national debt. $40 trillion, the number 40, I think we all understand, is a number of judgment in the Bible. And it's a pretty momentous event to me, also because I think the bond market is hovering at least above 5% since around May. And they say statistically that when nations hit 5% chronically in their bond market, they're pretty much cooked. I mean, their economy is so broken that no one wants to invest in them anymore.
Why do you think nobody cares? Like, I would agree with you. I think this is actually probably one of the biggest issues in our country, and it has been for a long time. Rush Limbaugh, in fact, in the old days, I was listening to somebody talk about him who finally just had to conclude, I can't even talk about it because nobody actually cares, except it's the biggest deal in our country. And that was when the national debt was maybe $10 trillion.
Well, I agree. I mean, that's what I mean about, we got to be serious and sober about reality. And this is not just some ethereal thing. This is a real fact. And quite frankly, I think this is due to borrow and spend, which was the Republicans' answer to the tax and spend.
You realize it's not just the Republicans. This has been going on for both parties. Well, the national debt doubled in the Bush administration. It doubled again in the Obama administration. And it has now doubled again between Trump, Biden, and Trump. It doesn't seem to matter. And both parties have been in charge of Congress. Both parties are involved. You cannot blame one party or the other. Nobody cares.
I'll say this: it was distinctly a Republican idea, and the Democrats are kind of dragging.
No, I'm not going for that. I'm not going for that. Well, everybody's on board with spending too much money. Tax and spend Democrats. That's what they're called.
I agree. Well, here's an example: like $26 billion to renovate the Washington D.C. airport. When we were in the middle of a war that is crippled our economy.
But in the big picture, Don, that's pennies. What's the big solution to not spending more than we have in it? We spend it's about $2 trillion a year more than we take in every year now. Why do we do that?
Like Dick Cheney said back in his day that the national debt didn't matter. And so he just kind of cemented this whole fantasy that, we can just spend. There's no day of reckoning, but there is.
It's coming. So, Don, what do we do? Because the only way to do it is to radically cut spending. I mean, massive cutting spending.
Well, boy, that would be the worst thing you can do.
It's the only thing you can do.
That would create it'll be a fire sale for the rich. They would go around picking up.
Well, I think everybody will hurt.
This is a dime and a dollar.
So what do we do?
Well, there's not much we can do. This is a serious situation that I think.
Well, I agree. I agree. It's super hard.
Is, is what we're looking at. We're looking at. I mean, if it weren't for the intervention of God and Jesus Christ into the situation, we'd be in a Mad Max world. Because that's what Jesus said. In the last days, it'll be like the days of Noah, when violence covered the earth.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good thing that we trust Jesus then, isn't it? Because otherwise we're going to trust the Republicans and Democrats to do something, and they're not.
Well, that's why I thought I mentioned the Babylon thing, because there's something to ponder.
Well, we may not have the money to be Babylon in the end. Don, I would encourage you to go ahead and have a good time with our other topics, too. It's okay, in spite of the fact that the national debt is crazy, and it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. It's okay to take a break, and like we're doing today, and enjoy fun topics, too. Appreciate you, Don. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. It is the Pastor Scott Show. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you want. 888-528-2557. Drew in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, Pastor Scott. How's it going?
I'm good. Drew, how are you?
Listener. Good.
Have you called before, Drew?
No, it's my first time calling, actually.
Well, let me give you the first time caller Let me give you the first time caller fanfare. Go ahead, Drew.
Oh, awesome. Just want to say that, I go to Core Church LA, and I listened to that segment with Pastor Steve on your show last week, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the first-time albums, and I do remember when I was a kid, my mom bought me, cassettes, and I remember she specifically bought me the Beastie Boys, the Brass Monkey.
Uh-huh.
And I really wanted the Eminem one, but she had to get me the censored version where there was no cuss words.
Uh-huh.
And so those were basically my first albums. And
your mom bought those for you.
She bought them for me, and she made sure that I didn't have any cuss words in the Eminem one. And it actually kind of led me down the path of loving hip-hop. But now I just am all into Christian music. And I just actually wanted to say I just released my first Christian song, like my first official one, and it's called The Christ Walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to put that out there. It's I'm going into the Christian music now, and
so you put something out there. So like if people Googled if they Googled the Christ Walk, they might find it.
Yes, the Christ Walk, and then it'll pop up. My name's Drew Peebles, but I'm in the process of editing a video. But
yeah,
so
well, best of luck to you.
That'd be cool. I feel like the Holy Spirit tugging on me to call you and let you know that.
Well, hey, appreciate you calling and joining us on the show, and best of luck to you with that. See what the Lord does with it.
Yeah. Oh, and real quick, Pastor Scott, real quick. In the Revelation, when I was reading about Babylon, the great city Babylon, the merchants crying because they can't sell the merchandise anymore and they see the fire going up.
Right.
There's a reference where it says that it actually is another name for Jerusalem. What do you think about that?
I'd have to go read it. I mean, I think that there's a whole lot of theory about what it ultimately means. And I'd have to go read what that reference is specifically. But the
Jews would obviously leave Jerusalem right during that 3.5-year mark and head to the, I think, south of the Jordan or something. But Jesus does come back down in Jerusalem, so I'm thinking,
yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, I was just thinking about.
It's all interesting when you look at the world today. And what we were just talking about with the national debt. I mean, it's a downer, right? But it's just math. Like eventually, the national debt in fact, the inflation that we're dealing with, the biggest reason that we have inflation that we can't get under 3% is probably the debt, more than the war or more than other things. We're spending way too much money than what we have, and eventually, you're going to have to face. It's going to be a day of reckoning, and that day is coming.
Yeah, gas is crazy here in LA. $8 a gallon for diesel. And I think about like the Afghanistan withdrawal. I'm like, man, they left billions there.
Yeah, and it's all pennies. But this is why we trust Jesus, right? Is these topics are scary and they're important. Amen. I think they're really important for us as citizens. I think we have a responsibility to not ignore these things. And at some point, we're going to have the conversation that says, hey, we have to quit spending money, not offer to spend more. You know that the DSA, the Democratic Socialists, what they're proposing would be $200 trillion on top of what we spend. It's not even within the realm of possibility. Right? That's
and you think they want to do the Dana setters on the moon, and Elon Musk, I want to go to Mars, but I'm like, in Revelation, doesn't it say the moon falls out of the sky, possibly from a nuke?
I don't think literally, but things are falling from the sky. But the point of it is that the truth is we spend more than we have. That is not a successful formula. And we will pay for that. Same way for you and I. You know, if we spend more than we have on Visa and MasterCard, and I was there once where I had terrible debt, personal debt.
Yeah.
And I mean, and eventually, you know, at first you have great credit because they're loaning you money and they're making interest. But eventually they realize you're never going to pay it back. And now you have bad credit. And now you're in trouble. That day you cannot avoid that. So point is, get out of debt. Don't, as much as you can, do not be in debt. Drew, appreciate your phone call. Good luck to you. The Christ Walk, if you want to go look that up. Pastor Scott Show. Philip, I'll get your call when we come back. It's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. You can call about anything you'd like. 888-528-2557. Be right back.
The Pastor Scott Show returns in 4 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 15 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 5 seconds. Welcome back to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. I love your show. Just want you to know I love it.
Call Pastor Scott now at 888-528-2557. That's 888-528-2557. Now back to Pastor Scott.
Welcome back, everybody. Pastor Scott Show. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you'd like. We're live on Friday. Phone number is 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557, number 13.
So there are a couple of things the president has talked about to try to address this problem. First of all, he's talked about a sovereign wealth fund because, as you know, actually the stock market, the equity market has performed a lot better than the bond market. There's a weird way where American taxpayers are getting fleeced because of the very high debt charges. By the way, very high debt charges that started under the Biden administration. This is a crisis that we inherited, and I think has gotten better. I'm not saying that everything is fixed, but it has certainly gotten better. Sure. The other thing is that Scott Bessent, the amazing Treasury Secretary, he has had a very discreet plan, of course, supported by the President of the United States, to get the United States to a point where our economy is growing faster than our debt. And if you look, we are on track. So even though the debt is too high, even though we inherited this debt bomb from the Biden administration, we actually do have a plan to get the economy growing faster than the debt. And that's the most important thing.
Shush up, okay? That was Vice President Vance talking about the national debt, as caller brought that up, that it is $40 trillion of debt that we've got. It's hard to even think about that. It's not that there isn't a way forward, but it's going to be hard. I mean, just think about how whenever remember Elon Musk had the Doge thing, right? It's the Department of Government Efficiency. He wanted to cut $1 trillion out of the budget. And you can criticize the way he did it, all this stuff, but what he was trying to do is necessary at some point. Everybody attacked it and it hardly did anything according to what they wanted it to do. It was a failure if you took the goals that it had to where we really are today. And it's because it's hard to not spend the money because that means you're cutting programs somewhere. You're cutting money that's going to somebody's congressional district, and they might lose their race. It just gets complicated. But you got to do something. And the president's done a couple of things that I think do head in the right direction. The Trump accounts that for your kids is a great idea because, if you can get people investing in the United States, investing in stocks from the time they're born, rather than, your Social Security, for you, if you are 65 now, if you're or maybe 55, maybe you're going to have Social Security maybe for the rest of your life. That age is getting older and older. But if you're born today, the math says there's no Social Security for you at all in the current way of doing it until maybe you're 85 or 90, right? We have to do something. Trump accounts is a way to do that. And the Sovereign Wealth Fund is a little complicated. It's basically like a 401k for the country. And that's hard to do while you're in debt. How do you save money and invest money as a country when you also are spending $2 trillion more than you take in every year? There are some ways, but it's a little tricky. I want to get your calls, and then maybe we'll come back to that. 888-528-2557. Philip from Newberry Park, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
How you doing, Pastor Scott?
Hi, Philip. I'm doing great. How are you today? Thanks for calling on Open Line Friday.
I'm blessed by the best.
That's right.
What I wanted to talk to you about is there's a program out called Biblical Citizen in Modern America. Have you heard about that?
I don't know if I have specifically. There's a few different ones that deal with that.
And who it's put on by is Kirk Cameron, David Barton, Matt Saber, George Barna, Rabbi Daniel, Rob McCoy, Jack Hibbs.
Yeah.
Anyway, and what it does is it breaks down why our government is set up the way it is, the safeguards, and how much thought was put in the way it was put together, and make people appreciate the government that we have.
So it's about, I think I am familiar with it, it's helping people understand why it is that we're set up the way we are.
Exactly. But so many Americans, I mean, today especially don't know history. They don't, everything is kind of void. And I think it's important before people think about jumping ship and going to some other system to look at the system and how blessed we are to have a system that was so well set up.
Yeah, it's super important because and you're right that we don't know why anymore. In fact, when most people are using words, like when people say, "Oh, I'm a socialist," well, what they really are saying, most people, what they're really saying is, "I want better health care." They're not talking about government ownership and what that means. Now, some people do mean that. Your Mom Donnies and some of the people in the DSA crowd who want to take your company and run it as a government. They want government ownership. And we have seen that fail in every single place it's been tried. But most people don't know the difference. I think we're going to do a topic here pretty soon. I'm doing some writing about what do people think these words mean? Because when people hear communist or socialist or fascist, they're usually not using the word in any way related to what it actually is.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
And that's a big problem for us. But, it would help us to educate ourselves. When you have people winning elections who say they want to abolish the Senate, and they want to abolish the presidency, and they want to abolish the Supreme Court, and they just want to have one big house of Congress, what exactly are they setting up? Why do we have a Senate in the first place? Why is there a Senate and a House? Why do we have a Supreme Court? Why is there a president? Why is it three different branches? Why do we have checks and balances? What they're saying is, let's get rid of the checks and balances. And that's the road to tyranny and destruction.
Well, Scott, one thing I wanted to tell you is it's like a 5-week course, and you can get it on YouTube, and look under biblical citizenship. And it's a 5-week course is between 25 and 45 minutes each, and it's made for people to take to their lunch break and go down and discuss it with, watch it with somebody and discover it. And then they also have a longer version that is an 8-week course that is an hour and a half long, but it's 8-week course. You got to be all in on this, and both of them are done really well. But I'm sure the 8-week one, you're going to get a lot more information out of it.
But, and what I would encourage people is that to really do this, to really take a look at why we are built the way we are, it's refreshing.
Absolutely.
And you feel relieved. And actually, probably the biggest safeguard to all the scary things that people might be saying today is, in fact, our system and the way it works. Right. So
absolutely,
we played a clip, I think, on Wednesday of the DSA having a meeting saying the Constitution is the thing in our way. That's why we hate it. We have to get rid of it. And the reason you have to get rid of it is because it prevents tyranny, actually. And whatever you think of Donald Trump, actually, he can't do everything he wants. He's not a dictator, even if you think he is. The Supreme Court has rebuffed Trump a lot. And Congress has the power to rebuff Trump. And the Senate does, and he can't. There's a lot he can't do. So all the people who are saying, "Oh, he's a dictator," no, he's not, and he can't be, even if you think he wants to be. And the Constitution is what provides for that. And the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court, and all of those things working together, that's what protects us from the tyrannies that people imagine would happen or could happen.
I totally agree, but I think it's important for people to realize, the safeguards are there. And the only reason I'm doing that is doing what I'm doing here is if somebody just takes a few minutes and look under biblical citizenship, and you can get a good idea.
You can check it out. All right, everybody, good thing to do this weekend. Spend some time not scrolling or watching Netflix and learn something about how the country works. And that's a pretty good way to do it. Philip, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday, and call about anything you want, 888-528-2557. Susie from Ventura, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on. I called because just want to express to everybody, including a previous caller from Los Angeles that has, every time he calls, it's like, oh, no. he talks about the world's coming to an end practically, and it's the fault of just this one direction he always takes it to. Luckily for us, Pastor Scott, you can confront him and redirect the agenda. But I want to say, I just want everybody to know, yesterday on TV, I saw Melania Trump promote this new direction she's going with foster kids and helping them. I'm a foster kid, and my dad was a real meanie. I put myself as a kid at about 15 or 16 years old into foster care. From there, I gleaned a new family, a new direction, and I knew from what was happening, my terrible life, my family, it had nowhere to go but up. And from saying that, I've been talked to from a lot of doctors that said your attitude that knew there was a different direction to go is what got you above and beyond. I'm now a medical provider and taking care of a lot of people. I teach nursing school and all this jazz. But I just want everybody to know, when COVID was out there and all that, I had to visit a lot of people, a lot of patients in their homes. I would say the number one reason why people outside of their diagnosis or whatever, their minds, they thought, I need a pill, and, I write prescriptions. But I told them, first, what we're going to do is not write you a prescription. We're going to take that television and put it on the Home and Garden channel or the Food channel or the Travel channel, and we're going to look at all the wonderful things there are out there that are still like ready to kind of like help you have a better life.
Yeah.
And from that, I helped a lot of people move forward. And so I would say, from us focusing on one thing, the bad stuff, and hearing about it and restating it, it only makes it bigger. But I think if it's that bad, where are we going to go? We have nowhere to go but up. We need to take it in that direction. We need to be with people that are, kind of like-minded, so we can have more support, so we can see how this is going. But if anybody talks to me about a life of woe and danger and injury and abuse, and then they see me where I am, they cannot believe I got to where I am. And it was because I looked on, like I said, I had nowhere to go but up and away. So with that being said, I put out the special prayer or blessing to Dawn, and sometimes there's another caller named Eric from Corona. And I just want everybody to know that if you focus on something and keep bringing it up and talking about it like they do in Washington, D.C., you don't hear about a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of good happening.
There's a lot of good stuff. Susie, I'm coming up to a break, but your story is great, and what you have to say is so important. And, yeah, there's other things on TV other than your cable news, which is a downer. And
absolutely.
And actually, things are really great. I got a clip from Melania Trump and the foster program. We'll play that as soon as we come back on the Pastor Scott Show. It's a great.
Play that in honor of me, too.
I will do that. I'll do that, Susie.
Yeah.
I'm out of time, Susie. I got to go to a break. 888-528-2557. Be right back.
The Pastor Scott Show returns in 4 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 3 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 2 minutes. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 1 minute. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 30 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 15 seconds. The Pastor Scott Show returns in 5 seconds.
I surf till the sun sets beyond the horizon. Flying by on the Hawaiian roller coaster ride.
Welcome back to the Pastor Scott Show.
Thank you, Pastor Scott. I really like your show. We should listen to you every day.
Call Pastor Scott now at 888-528-2557. That's 888-528-2557. Now back to Pastor Scott.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. You call about anything you like. Jose, you must be already in a Hawaiian mood because you are off to Hawaii next week, yes?
That's correct. Leaving on Sunday.
Leaving on Sunday. So you've, with that musical choice there, you've already left, I think, in some ways. Yes.
Yes.
Well, good for you. We're so excited for you. I will not be gone on Monday. I'll be right here in the Pastor Scott Show on Monday. From 3 to 5 like we normally are. Hey, I'll get your phone calls in a minute here on Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. First, I want to tell you about Sanctuary Metals. You know, we were talking about the national debt, and we're talking about those kinds of things, and it can get kind of scary. Well, one of the things that you do when you get the news of financial insecurity or you're kind of wondering about the future is that you make some decisions. You do some things, and many people are diversifying their retirement accounts with physical gold and silver. Sanctuary Metals can help you do that. And if you're over 59 and a half, you might be able to roll over a current IRA or 401k into a gold and silver IRA with no penalties and no taxes if you qualify. Sanctuary Metals will help you out over the phone. It takes about 15 minutes. Their team will walk you through everything, and your metals are stored safely in IRS-approved vaults, giving you peace of mind. You can call Sanctuary Metals today, 800-801-9877, 800-801-9877. When you call, make sure you tell them Pastor Scott sent you to see if you qualify for a no-fee-for-life precious metals IRA. You can learn more online at sanctuarymetals.com, sanctuarymetals.com. Phone number again is 800-801-9877. Past performance does not guarantee future results. All right, Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. Before the break, I told you I'd play this clip. This is Melania Trump yesterday in the Rose Garden, and they're discussing her foster care program, number 29.
Good afternoon. I heard you missed me. Here I am. Welcome to the White House. A warm welcome to our distinguished guests today, Mr. President, my father, Mr. Knaus, cabinet members, Mr. Pensky, Mr. Bowles, Mr. Shanks, the talented drivers, our universities, and the remarkable individuals who stand in support of my Fostering the Future initiative. The greatest investment America can make is not in technology, infrastructure, or capital markets. It's our children.
That's Melania Trump yesterday having this discussion at the White House with her initiative, the Fostering the Future initiative. There are currently more than 8,900 awards through 409 different public housing authorities in 49 states and the Virgin Islands. This is a big deal for her, and it doesn't get enough press. We were talking about how, the news media is so negative, and there are definitely things to worry about, national debt and other stuff, but there are lots of great things going on. And the way our media works is, number one, if it bleeds, it leads. So, good things like foster youth, Trump accounts, things that are happening for the future, good ideas that are being discussed, those things don't get any press. That tends to not be. And media hates Trump generally, so you don't hear any of that stuff, only whatever is they would say is bad. There are really good things that are happening in the midst of the things that we're genuinely concerned about, that we should be concerned about. So I think, one of the things that is so important is to be positive. So many people, they just watch cable news all day, and it's horrifying. I watch people so scared to death during the COVID, and COVID was serious, but there were people who believed things that were completely not true because they sat and watched the news all day, every day. And they came to believe things that were never true about COVID, not just things that people disagreed about, but things that were never true. And, turn the channel, go outside, play a game, talk about something fun, like your favorite, the first album you ever bought. Have those memories with people, because life is actually pretty good. There have always been challenges. There have always been threats of war and threats of destruction and disease and sickness and all those. That's always been the human experience. And yet we're still here. And actually, even with the number of things that we have to worry about, things are pretty good. And you know what? If we're headed towards the end times, if Antichrist is on the horizon and the Great Tribulation and all of that stuff, well, you know what? For the Christian, hooray. Yeah, it might get a little rough for a while, but you know what? Jesus is coming back, then it's going to be great forever. The worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to die and go be with Jesus. That's a really great thing. That means that your best days, if you're a believer, your best days are always in front of you, no matter what you're facing. So trust Jesus with that. And in the meantime, don't let the things that you can't control, don't let the things that you can't change, ruin some joy that you can have today. Take the world seriously. Don't shrug your shoulders at things that are important, but also enjoy some things today. It's been a lot of fun today talking about your first album that you ever bought and why you bought it. Those kinds of things. 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. We have a few minutes left. 888-528-2557. Gene from El Monte, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. All I wanted to say, I was born in 57, so when I was a seventh grader or sixth grader, I can't remember, Led Zeppelin came out with the Immigrant Song. And I remember my neighbor, she had the record, so she had a record player, and I was trudging across the snow. We had a lot of snow back in Erie, in Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
And so it was really great because it's Come to the Land of the Ice and Snow. It's a great song. And I don't know if you know the Immigrant Song. It's a really popular song with Led Zeppelin. And my sisters kept playing Whole Lotta Love on my tape recorder, and I hated that song. It was so noisy. I kept erasing it, and they were older than me, and they kept taping it again, recording it again.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's all I want to say about that. But yeah, listen to the Immigrant Song. I know you've heard it.
I'm sure that I've heard it. I may not know the name of it, but I probably heard it.
Look it up. It's very popular. Anyways, it's a great song. And also, I remember reading in the Bible, the Catholic Bible, they said that Babylon was Baghdad and modern day Baghdad. And I know I watched on EWTN, I think it was, they were showing how a lot of Catholics are persecuted in Iraq. And this not Iraq, it's Iraq. That's how they say it. And over there, they were like taxing them a lot, and then they were forcing them out of their houses. They all had to live like in a certain part of the city. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like out of their area. And so I'm just saying the Muslims were forcing them to become Christian, Muslims, and they were Christians or Catholics, and they were like, no. So the priests didn't know what to do, because, and these were people that, were doctors or, they were like people who were professionals. They had, they looked like they were just miffed by all this. And this is a few years ago. See, nothing's being said in the media. But yeah, that's what I read. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that in the book of Revelation. A lot of things are symbolic. So some people will think that there's a future literal Babylon that might actually be in the same location as the original Babylon, and that is Iraq. And there's or Iraq,
right?
Like you corrected. And maybe. Or maybe it's a future world system. I tend to think it's more about systems, global economic systems that will fail because it talks so much about buying and selling and basically the market failing.
Right.
There's a lot of different things. At the end of the day, we'll know when we know. But for the believer, we know how that book ends. And
yes.
And Jesus returns and sets up his kingdom. And that is an incredible thing. And that's, I think, for us, when we want to talk about government or politics and stuff, I think as citizens of the United States, we should. I think as Christians, we have, particularly with certain issues, we've got a lot of things that we should be speaking out about. And I think everybody ought to vote. And vote in an educated way. Don't just vote for your party. Vote for what you think is the best policies out there. But at the end of the day, the United States is not going to be Jesus's kingdom. It's, at the end of the day, our hope is not that our party wins or in our politics or in democracy or in whatever you want to say. Our hope is in Jesus Christ. And that's a hope that cannot be taken away. And
right.
I think that's a wonderful thing. Gene, I really appreciate your phone call. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. Melody in Burbank, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott.
Hi, Melody.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to say that the first album that I bought was, I believe it was the Sean Cassidy album.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was like a big heartthrob.
Right. I was about to ask you, did you buy it because you liked his music or because you liked Sean Cassidy?
Probably because I like Sean Cassidy. My sister and I used to listen to that album 1,000 times, like over. So it was great.
Do people do that anymore with the digital music and the downloads? Are people listening to the same thing over and over again in that same way? I guess they might be. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Maybe. It's not always the albums. I don't know that people download the whole album. Like, people are still putting out albums in that way, but most people just download a particular song that they like.
Songs, yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Melody, I appreciate your phone call, and it's a fun memory with those things. What do you do with music? Do you just listen like random stuff, like categories? Do you actually download entire albums?
Not entire albums. Like, usually only the good songs from that album.
Yeah.
Because, like, Spotify, I just listen to Spotify, and it's just like, I don't have whole albums in there. I just have, like, the songs that I like from each album. So I don't think no one just, like, saves a whole album unless they're diehard fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all of that has changed. And that's just the direction of technology and the world. And but it's fun to have the memories of things. And if you still, we mentioned at the top of the show that Columbia House Records and Tapes announced that they're closing. They're done. You can't order anything else. They're closing up shop on September 15th. If you still owe them 3 or 4 different things that you need to buy, I guess you're off the hook. I guess that's how that works, is that you're not going to have to fulfill your agreement. So good for you with all of that. Hey, everybody, I won't have time for more calls. We do Open Line Friday every time. Gio, appreciate your call. We're out of time for today. And this is the Pastor Scott Show. Go online right now, if you haven't done so before. Give us a follow on your social media, at Pastor Scott Show. Instagram, at Pastor Scott Show. Facebook, at Pastor Scott Show. TikTok, at Pastor Scott Show. You can watch the Pastor Scott Show on YouTube, at Pastor Scott Show. It's very easy. Social media, we're always at Pastor Scott Show. And if you haven't figured it out yet, this has been the Pastor Scott Show. Go to pastorscottshow.com. I'm Pastor Scott, by the way. See how that works? Everybody, have a great weekend. Go to pastorscottshow.com. I'll see you on Monday without Jose from 3 to 5 on Monday live. Good night.